Hello and welcome to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. My name is Rick Crabb, and joining me on the line as always from his palatial estate in New York, Mr. Eric Marenbach. Eric, how was your World Series weekend and your weekend in general?
Saturday was probably the best winter day, and now it's starting to get actual winter World Series, like chilly temperatures during the day and at night. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely dealing with the changes in season, which I guess is kind of part of it. I mean, it's kind of tradition with the postseason of Major League Baseball in the United States, especially in October. But yeah, it's definitely experienced a lot of that. So what did you think of the games this weekend? There's one thing I wanted to comment on, which I thought was funny. I listened to give you an idea, folks, how early I get up in the morning during the week, I listen to a talk show host for CBS Radio named Amy Lawrence. She's on usually basically what a lot of people call the graveyard shift. She's on, from midnight till 6 o'clock the next morning, we'll say. And I called her just before 6 o'clock. She was commenting on the World Series about how fans were booing because the Dodgers were taking Kershaw out of the game. Which she commented on was she thought that was wonderful only because with COVID going on and a lot of sporting events not having any fans at all, to hear boos, she thought that was really cool. And I kind of agree with her. It's like something you take for granted for watching sports for years, and then when you don't hear it, it's kind of refreshing to hear it. Again, it's like fans involved in the game, and it has been a back and forth World Series. It's been fairly entertaining. What's your take on it?
I think it's more than fairly entertaining. It's actually fantastic from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had two teams with the best records that absolutely belong in there, and it hasn't disappointed at all. Anywhere from certain decisions being made by either Roberts or Cash to clutch hitting by Randy Arozarena on the Rays, or some of the Dodger guys like Seager and stuff like that. You've got good pitching, you've got good hitting, you've got some bonehead plays. You got a little bit of everything, which is basically what baseball to me is all about.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say the teams with the best records. I think if this had been a regular length baseball season, you wouldn't be surprised to see these two teams in it anyway, especially the Dodgers. And Tampa has accounted for themselves very well. Both teams have. It's a good thing. I mean, I think some of the teams that did advance to the postseason, I think people were kind of skeptical of, say, the Marlins, saying, well, if this would have been a 162-game season, you probably wouldn't have made it. Or they think the Yankees may have had higher seeding if it had been a longer seeding, too, season as well. But it's good to see that you're seeing the cream rise to the top. And, it's definitely a good series, like you said, with the clutch hitting, with the bullpen of Tampa Bay, with the cascade of stars from the Dodgers, so it has been a fun series to watch, and in a way, I'm glad we're not getting in a game tonight because we can talk about it and not miss any action, but on the other hand, though, I kind of hope the series does go to Game 7, no disrespect to the Dodgers fans who are on the verge of clinching as of this broadcast, but this has been a fun series, and just as a baseball fan, I wanted to go to a Game 7. I know last year when I went to the nation's capital to watch the Astros and the Nationals, and I went to a viewing at Nats Park for Game 7, even though the game was actually played in Houston, but they had about almost 30,000 people in the rain in Washington, D.C. watching basically a game on Fox. They could have stayed home and watched, but they just wanted to be part of the stadium atmosphere and all of that, and of course they wanted to be down there if the Nats did indeed win, in which they did, and I think I mentioned it on the last episode, Eric. That was probably one of the biggest sports celebrations I've ever been to. And, it's, folks, if you get a chance, if you happen to live in or near a city that's has a team in the Super Bowl or the World Series or what have you, I would advise you go. Even if, like, say, you're near Buffalo and they're in the Super Bowl and they happen to, and even though the Super Bowl might be, like, say, in, I don't know, Miami or wherever, just to be around their fans, just to cheer or boo or whatever. I mean, it's not as good as an in-stadium experience, but it's pretty close. Still has almost similar fan interaction, and kind of had that with Washington. Although, even though the game wasn't actually played in Nats Park, it didn't stop them from charging the same prices for beer and hot dogs. I will say that though, Eric. But yeah, so I'm congratulations to both teams in advance. I mean, I believe they both deserve to be there, and I don't know, keep giving us fun baseball.
Well, as a guy that has been to not only clinching World Series games at Yankee Stadium, but have watched clinchers of the Yankees and then gone on to the parades and stuff, it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I mean, as far as the Yankees go, it's a 27-time experience.
Right.
But, you get the joy of the clinching game, especially if it's in your home ballpark, and then a few days later, there's usually some sort of celebration, which, of course, this year probably will be a little different because of what we're going through.
True that.
But, all in all, championship games are fun. And that doesn't only go, here, it goes international as well. I've mentioned on previous episodes, I've been to clinching games in Taiwan, but that is absolutely phenomenal, the celebrations that they go through with ribbons and all kinds of yelling and screaming. And the ballparks aren't as large, but the enthusiasm is 10 times larger, in my opinion.
Yeah, it sounded amazing, especially from that one episode where, I was joking about taking an extra, if I went with you, to take an extra streamer and get one of them signed, and the other one I would throw out in the field with you. But let me ask you this as a New York fan. I remember trying to think what year it was. I want to say maybe like 2000, where it was a Subway Series between the Mets and the Yankees, where, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Avenue of Heroes, you had a parade for both teams, even though, the Yankees had won with that. But I don't know. I know where your loyalties lie, but I mean, I thought that was classy of the city to honor both teams doing that, but I don't know. How tell me about that situation. It seemed like it's kind of weird. If I was in the Mets, I'd feel like I was kind of like disappointed in a way. I almost didn't want to come, but I know, even though they have a lot less fans than the Yankees, I'm sure, they have a sizable margin. I guess they wanted to do it for their fans, I guess. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I'm going to be honest with you. I kind of don't remember the Mets side of it, unless I was too, entrenched on the Yankees. But, I'm standing in my normal area, like around the Canyon of Heroes there. I didn't really notice any Mets stuff unless they did something separate. But I thought it was completely a Yankee thing. I could be wrong.
Okay, I could be mistaken as well. I thought I had heard that they did something for both teams, but maybe they did something separate in Queens or something. I don't know. I thought
it's quite possible that it would. If anything was done for the Mets, it would probably be not necessarily at Citi Field.
Mm-hmm.
Shea Stadium at the time, but probably around the World Fairgrounds.
Okay.
Corona. That's very possible as well, but I honestly do not remember anything going on in the Canyon of Heroes from a Mets standpoint. Of course, the best thing about any sort of parade, no matter where you go, probably bootleg T-shirts.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah. And I actually did that last year for the game, for the Nats Astros World Series. He had these really cool shirts. The fact that the opponent were the Astros, they kind of played off of that, and it says Houston in their normal font. It said, Houston, we have a problem, and then he made the Nats logo make it look like a NASA logo, where you had the curly W over like I guess it's like the blue globe with the star or whatever, like the old school NASA logo, and it looked like. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looked really cool. Yeah, I got a funny story about that. I think I might have mentioned it on another episode, but when I went to that series, I have friends who live closer to DC, and some of them are Nats fans and fans of the Washington football team, as opposed to the Orioles and the Ravens, where my loyalties lie. I contacted one of them. We were talking on the phone. I was like, okay, look, if they go to Game 7, I'll get us tickets. And they had a whole thing where you had to go through the MLB Ballpark app, and, they were free tickets, obviously. They couldn't mail them to you. So you just had to order them online, and then when you go to the stadium, just scan your phone, and you're in. And pretty much that's what we did. And we had fun, and it's like we were just watching back and forth. It had been raining, so we actually had to switch seats a few times, but still, it was a good time. And then when they rallied, like in the 7th inning, we had fun. And prior to that, I kind of feel like I blessed the Nationals and cursed myself for this, because just before that, the Nats were trailing, and I went and got me and my friends some hot dogs, and I was driving. I got a Coke instead. At that point, I think we each had an adult beverage before then. But anyway, long story short, we had so much fun. My wallet decided it did not want to leave Washington D.C., so I lost my wallet in Nationals Park. Who knows where it is? Who knows who has it? But, I checked with my bank the next day. Luckily, it didn't, nobody decided to go on a big shopping spree or anything. But I was scared because not only did it have my money, it had our subway cards, or what DC they call their Metro Pass. But basically, it's the same thing. And luckily, the DC Metro, they had a promotion where it's like the train stayed open later to allow people to go home and, to celebrate later and then go home. And luckily, the DC Metro people, we told them, I wanted to buy another card. It said, all the machines are closed. They were like, screw it, go home, you can go home for free. And sure enough, we took the train back to the station where my car was parked, and I drove her home, and I drove home, and I don't know. I went home. I lost my wallet, and all I got was this T-shirt, Eric. But I can laugh at it now, but I felt like I kind of felt like I had ruined Christmas at that point. I felt really bad, but but it was a good time, and it was congratulations to the Nats, and I think I may have mentioned this on an episode. I was reminded that cannabis is legal in the District of Columbia, and folks were partaking of that leaving the stadium. So I will leave it at that.
Washington has always been a state where I was always shocked about how they cut off the public transportation service at a certain time. Mm-hmm. I mean, here I am sitting at the 18-inning game, if you remember, between the Nats and the Giants. We're freezing our butts off because, it's getting late. And then all of a sudden, everybody's yelling and screaming because they're threatening to cut off the train service.
Yeah.
So, of course, naturally, I drove all the way down. So you're hearing all these people, all around you saying, did you end the damn game already? Because we're trying to get home.
Right.
It just boggles the mind that you would be at a stadium that has public transportation service right at your very second pass, and they'll just cut it off because that's the way the thing runs it.
And that policy's fairly recent too, because it used to be, it would be like that during the week. Trains would end at midnight, but it used to be on the weekends they would end maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. Then they said their excuse was because the lines were old and needed repaired. It would be temporary. We're going to do it till midnight, and they just decided just to keep it that way, which is a mistake. I mean, I worked part-time as a DJ for a few years, and I worked, my girlfriend and I at the time, we worked at a few bars, taking turns DJing, and that would hurt our business. We would go down there, and it would be people would want to stay, but then it'd be well, yeah, I want to stay, but if I don't get back to the metro train, my car is parked in Greenbelt, Maryland, and I won't be able to get home, and also you had people parked either in Maryland or Northern Virginia. They would take the train, which is a shame because for the most part, I'd say their public transportation system's pretty good there, especially with the trains. But but that's my only gripe about that. But because of that, I think the local utility Pepco, they sponsored letting the metro trains run until I think 2 o'clock the morning of of the next morning after Game 7, I guess you want to call it.
Right.
But, yeah, so, and I guess we could talk about this later when we do the CPBL, but I read some recent posts of you talking about how you would take a bus to see some of the games when you're over there. I mean, how was their transportation system like? I mean, as far as getting to games and stuff.
Very good. They're more or less 24 hours. So buses, trains, what do we call it? There's 2 different train systems. There's more or less the super rail, or the high-speed rail, rather, and then there's the regular subway.
Okay.
High-speed rails, you can get somewhere half the time. Of course, you get what you pay for, You pay almost double the price if you want to get there, in half the time.
Right.
It's all to your convenience level, and it's all to your affordability level.
Gotcha.
Sometimes it's fun just to take the bus.
Mm-hmm.
And those buses, they're actually quite comfortable, to the point where every seat reclines to a half-decent position, and there's movies on the bus.
Okay, so they're like coach buses. Okay, that's pretty cool then.
Yeah,
all right.
Not bad at all. So, as far as getting, from a certain city to a certain city, the transportation level is very, very good over there. Sometimes I won't go back the same day, if I'm traveling 2 hours at a clip, only out of courtesy, to my friend that I stay with, and I don't want to get back too late.
Right,
so sometimes I'll, in the other city, and then go back the next day. It all depends.
Right. Well, I totally understand that. All right. Well, okay. Well, Eric, do you have any other comments regarding the World Series or anything else in North America? Anything in the world of baseball, I guess, in this continent, I guess? No.
Getting back to the games, I mean, the thing that I have with Randy Arozarena, who, every time he hits one, I keep saying, and I keep looking at the Cardinal photo that I have with him, and I keep saying, my God, God Mosaic, you're a beast. We're getting rid of this kid. I mean, this is a kid that wasn't even on the radar with the Cardinals and he was kind of an afterthought with the Rays, too, and then all of a sudden he just blossoms into superstardom. And you're getting, look at their lineup right now, to the point where you've got two Cuban players batting 1-2 in the presence of Yandy Diaz and Randy. So it's like the Andy and Randy shows. Kind of funny, but, you know, kind of spooky in the same way.
Right. Yeah, that is kind of a strange coincidence, but... And probably a lot of Cardinals fans are probably wondering that now, but kind of to their defense, I'm wondering if it's almost a situation where maybe the change of scenery or maybe just the Tampa Bay Rays system was a better fit for him, even though, like you said, he wasn't even recognized by the Rays that much, although I remember listening to KBO last week, they were talking about Eduardo Perez was predicting good things for Randy, telling those announcers, listen, you keep an eye on this kid. He's going to do some things in the postseason. And meanwhile, the announcers are like, who is this guy? What are you talking about? And sure enough, Mr., forget about the runner, keep the ball down, knew what he was talking about, as we always knew he did. And sure enough, if this was the old days, like in the 70s or the 80s, Randy would probably might get a candy bar or a Wheaties box out of this, you know what I mean? I think he might reach that much appeal to people, but yeah, so he's been fun to watch, as been, the series as a whole, so.
It's been an absolute pleasure to watch it. He's got 27 postseason hits, which is some sort of a record, and yeah, it's just day by day. Right. Actually, the only thing left for Randy to do is get a bobblehead at this point.
Give it time, and I'm sure the Tampa Bay Rays probably will have one. I'd be very surprised if they didn't have a day where they gave one out next year. Next year, or whatever year they were allowed to have fans again. So I would not be surprised to see that at all. Or even like the minor league affiliates of Tampa, of the Rays. Heck, even like maybe the Cardinals affiliate that he played for might do that. The Bowie Bay Sox, they still do stuff for like Manny Machado, and he's already played for 2 teams after leaving the Orioles, so you never know. But
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Okay, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to move our world tour over to Korea and talk some KBO and the race to the playoffs for that league. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabb, Eric Marin back. And now we shift our tour over to Korea and the KBO and the mosh pit that is the fight for the top 5 spots in the KBO standings and for the playoff seedings. Eric, it's still exciting as can be. The playoffs will actually start next week on the 1st. And we have like a schedule of games coming up where some teams have been eliminated, but they're ready, willing, and able to be spoilers, I'm sure, as far as demoting some of the seeds of these teams. We've been talking about it probably every week since we've done this show, Eric, but, what's your take on, just that race going on over there?
Well, at this point, you're just jockeying for position amongst the top 5 spots with the, bottom feeders. Sorry, Marlon. The bottom feeders just looking to play spoiler in these rain makeup games. So they're looking for something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
I am just hoping that the playoffs are run well, that NC, maintains its wire-to-wire position so they can kind of rest up a little bit, just watch the other teams battle it out in their part of the playoff until the final.
Right.
And roll with the punches.
Yeah, that should be interesting. And I don't know, the way they have that format, it's really kind of crazy too. I mean, especially, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if it's not the first round, it's the second round where the higher seed already is given as a 1-0 lead in the series before they can even start, and then the other team has to win 2 games to beat them. And the way it's stacked up, I mean, I guess the Korean people are used to that because that's how that league has been structured. But to me, it kind of reminds me of like an old school video game, or like if you ever see the movie called Scott Pilgrim versus the World, where basically you have to go through. It's like an old school fighting game where you have to go through all these different bosses before you get to the main boss at the final level. And I kind of feel like the NC Dinos are like the final boss, so it's like, I don't know, right now I'm looking at the standings so far, you got like the Doosan Bears, and it's like if they had to go through Kiwoom, and if they win, they have to go through the Wiz, and if they win, they have to go through the Twins, and if they win, they finally have the final fight with the boss, which were the NC Dinos, you know. Cute cheerleaders dancing to Baby Shark and all, you know, but that's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad to see the fans back in the stands. I think that adds another element to it, too, and, I mean, postseason baseball anywhere is fun, and from what you told me, you know, your friends in the CPBL and in Taiwan, I mean, they take their fun to a new level, and it looks like the Koreans do as well, so I'm hoping for them they have a good series. I'm hoping, you know, everything stays positive with the COVID testing and everything. It seems like they've done a fantastic job, as we've said that many times. And the weather is turning a little cooler over there, so it's a smart move to have the semifinals and finals in the Sky, you know, the Sky Dome in Seoul, you know, or the Kiwoom Hero Stadium. So good for them.
I actually kind of like that idea. As you know, with what's going on here with our lovely pandemic, as it's getting colder and the whole virus is spreading to record proportions. So if you want the fans to be there, and apparently the KBO is expanding the stadium capacity to 50%. You're going to want it to be indoors in a more comfortable situation so that the fans can get in there. I did kind of find it funny. I believe it was on either the Saturday, I think it was the Saturday ESPN broadcast, when Daniel Kim was talking about the ticketing system that they run over there. And it's really beneficial to go to these cybernet cafes because the internet is that much faster as far as getting into the servers.
Interesting.
To get tickets. It's kind of a weird feeling, although I got put, you know, in somewhat of a similar situation because I got to admit, I was a little intrigued with the Texas postseason bubble that's here, and I had an inkling of possibly going. Whether or not the Yankees were going to be in it,
right?
It's still possible to possibly go there. But the day that the tickets went on sale to the general public, even the second you were able to get on, you were stuck in the quote-unquote internet waiting room. Yeah, and I don't know if it was rigged or whatever. So if it was rigged here, in Korea it's probably 10 times worse with the servers and all.
Yeah.
And what Daniel was saying was these internet cafes are like 20G as far as the server speed. So that's uncanny.
Well,
like not.
Well, that's good to know. I guess, if we do go over there and we don't already have tickets through Japan Ball or somebody like that, that might be the way to go. Or, I don't know, maybe just hang out in the cyber cafes and watch the games. Who knows? But, well, it also... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Comparatively speaking, as compared to our money versus theirs, and I think I might have told you, even if the scalpers are charging, high amounts in their prices, that is so cheap compared to what you pay in America today.
True. Now, did Daniel Kim say as far as like a minimum of tickets you could buy over there? Because I know you had said the World Series. No.
They didn't talk about minimums or maximums or anything like that.
Yeah.
They just said that it was extremely difficult because of the quote-unquote Korean black market.
Right.
Or whatever. That these brokers jump on the internet really quick and gobble up a load of the tickets or a bulk of the tickets, whatever.
Yeah, because I see that it's kind of a scam that leagues here are doing with. I think you had mentioned like with the playoffs and World Series in Texas, you had to buy like a minimum of 4 so you can buy a quote unquote socially distanced pod. And some of the NFL teams are doing this. I saw, for example, Philadelphia, when the Baltimore Ravens went to play there, they were given permission to allow more fans, but it was, I think, only like 5,000 or 7,000. But they had a thing where you had to buy a minimum of 4 tickets. You couldn't just go up, to the ticket booth and buy a seat in the 50-yard line. You had to buy a group of 4 to go up there. And I have a feeling that's one way Ticketmaster and Live Nation and all these other places are going to basically rip people off in this country, I think. They're going to be saying, okay, well, to keep socially distant, you need to buy 4 so we can keep your closest friends with you and all that, which is, that's BS. But,
it's not necessarily true. I mean, the secondary markets, you were getting, singles being released.
Mm-hmm.
So, the brokers or whatever were buying the pods of 4 and then just splitting them.
Right.
So, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the brokers taking advantage and, selling them for ridiculous prices, but you're able to split it off through a secondary service. Whereas if you're buying it straight from the team, you'd have to go,
Mm-hmm.
in the groups.
Right, but I don't know. It seems like there are situations, though, where whether it's through the teams or through the secondary markets, or it seems like, I had memories, for example, of like with 9/11. It was like, yeah, okay, we want to take extra security measures to protect people, but because of that, you can't bring any sandwiches into the state, or you can't bring any wings, or you can't bring anything. It just happened to be things that benefited the team, the city, the stadium financially. It didn't give 2 shits about your safety, But I guess that's the way sports are sometimes. But I guess they're kind of like Michael Douglas in that one movie, Greed is Good, I guess, right? But,
The situations that require extreme measures, I guess.
yeah. It was almost like zero tolerance, though. I don't know. I've gone to enough games. I've had my issues with the security people there, but whatever. It's part of the reason why my father stopped going and basically flipped his season tickets the last few years he was with us. But anyway, I digress. But back to the Korea and the KBO, and I don't know. It seems like let's go through the standings of the KBO as they stand right now. We have the aforementioned NC Dinos at 81, 53, and 5. The Yelty Twins at 79, 59, and 4. The KT Wiz at 79, 60, and 1. The Kiwoom Heroes at 80, 62, and 1. The Doosan Bears at 76, 61, and 4. Those are the top 5 seeds as of now. And then behind them, you have the Kia Tigers at 71-68-0. The Lotte Giants at 69-70-1. Samsung Lions at 63-75-4. SK Wyverns at 50-91-1. And the Hanwha Eagles at 44-93-3. And I'm going to go through real quick. I'm going to look at the upcoming schedule just to see who, because some of those teams have been eliminated and will be acting as the spoiler, I'm sure. And it looks like it had some good matchups. I was scanning it earlier. But
I actually thought it was kind of cool that after Daniel was on Saturday, they had Jamie Romack from the eliminated SK Wyverns on, and he and Xavier Scruggs, the former NC Dinos superstar, were kind of rambling back and forth between each other, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, wow, yeah, so a little trash talk, I guess. Okay, so yeah, we have like a few possible spoiler roles. We have, for example, we have on the 27th, we have Doosan taking on Hanwha. Yeah, Hanwha, they don't have too much to play for this year. As we have the Kia Tigers against the Wiz. And then you have the Lotte Giants against the Wyverns. That's, okay, playing for pride, I guess, as John Madden used to say in the video game. Had the Dinos against the Samsung Lions. Again, spoiler, or try to wreck the Dinos' momentum, although it looks like they're probably going to hold on and win the top seed. You have the Kia Tigers against the Wiz again. The Twins against the Hanwha Eagles. So, another chance for Hanwha to spoil some fun for the top seeds. Lotte against the Dinos. And then 29th, you have Hanwha against the Wiz. Kia against Doosan. Lotte against the Dinos. And then, approaching Halloween weekend, we have Doosan and Kiwoom. Battle of Seoul right there. That should be a good matchup. That might be a good playoff matchup. Hanwha against the Wiz. Lotte against Kia. Samsung against the Dinos. Wyverns against the Twins, another potential spoiler. And then on Halloween, we had the Tigers against the Dinos. So a lot of, I'd say it's a lot more treats than there are tricks in these upcoming matches, Eric. So should be a lot of fun. Watch the games wherever on ESPN, the ESPN3 app, Twitch, wherever. Folks, if you haven't done so already, and I'm sure a lot of you who are listening have done so, but if you have a friend who hasn't, turn them on to the KBO. I think they'll have a lot of fun, It's a lot of fun baseball, because especially with the bullpen. In fact, there's one thing, Eric, I forgot to mention when we were in the North America segment. They were somebody in one of our groups was comparing one of the bullpens. I think it was the Dodgers bullpen. They were saying they were going through some KBO-ness, which means basically letting the other team have a big inning at their expense. So, I don't know, that's one of the things we joke about and laugh about with KBO, but, that's part of the game, So.
Well, that's why, especially in KBO, that's why they push their starters to go as long as they can, because pretty much for the most part, and actually this does go for Taiwan too, starters are a main part of the game because your bullpens, to be politically correct, suck.
Right.
So you want to try and get, much out of them as whatever, and to avoid a bridge situation, because your only good pitchers pretty much are your starters and your closers.
Right.
Everything in between is a crapshoot.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of similar to how baseball used to be here, where, and in our country, it's like even the middle relief, some of them have more of like a specialty role, and I don't know, sometimes much to the chagrin of a lot of fans, managers follow that formula. The starter has so much of a pitch count, and now I have to get this middle guy in no matter what, and I have to get the closer in no matter what, and sometimes it seems like the managers stick to that formula so much, it's almost like they're not making adjustments to what's actually happening in the game. They're just stuck in their kind of traditions. Whereas in the past, it was like, okay, the only reason you're in the bullpen is you can't make it as a starting pitcher, especially when you had a lot of pitchers pitch complete games. But okay, well, Eric, do you have any other comments regarding the KBO?
Nah, I'm all choked up about the CPBL because the last week leading into the playoffs was absolutely awesome. Heartbreaking and awesome at the same time.
Okay, all right, very good. Well, folks, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to move our tour to Taiwan, and Eric is going to tell us all about the week in the CPBL. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia YouTube channel. We'll be right back. Alright folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour. Rick Crabb, Eric Marin back, and as promised, we will defer to Eric's knowledge of the CPBL and our friends in Taiwan and what is going on in that week. Eric.
Well, your Taiwan series is pretty much set up, and it's going to be starting actually on Halloween night, Halloween morning. The Lions facing the Elephants. And I got to tell you, the last week leading up to it, which you're playing makeup games, to finish up the season and to basically determine the second half, because the race between the four teams was so close, there was no real social distancing, to make a fun out of it, between the teams. It came down to the last couple of games of the season just to get the Lions in there. The game on Thursday of last week was a heartbreaker. You had basically a major pitching duel, shutout ball between the two teams up until the 8th inning when the Lions scored and Fubon couldn't come back. Where, okay, you could have dealt with that, but you did need, in order for Fubon to get in, you actually needed the next day for the Elephants to beat the Lions to force, now get this, a 3-way tie to finish the year.
Oh my gosh.
And somehow the Lions actually were able to defeat Brother 4-2 in that final game, so that knocked out Fubon and gave the Lions the second half. It was heartbreaking to see because, I'll be honest with you, like I said, it was nice to see somebody other than the Monkeys against Dolphins. I was kind of leaning towards having Fubon get in there because of former Yankee Manny Benuelos, who really did pitch his butt off on the Wednesday game. And, of course, my buddy Mike Lurie, who has been there forever. I really wanted them to get in, even if I couldn't be there, to watch the Taiwan series this year because of COVID. Hope to see them get in there, but it just wasn't meant to be. No. Henry Sosa pitched his butt off, but fell victim to the bullpen.
Jeez whiz.
It was a 2-0 game, which led to the final game, hoping for them to get back in, but the Lions came up big and beat the Elephants 4-2. And you're going to force a 7-game series between those two teams starting on Saturday.
Okay. All right. So that you would answer the question I was going to ask. So, all right. So yeah, that should be interesting, and it's like you said, you have friendships with members of the different teams there, so it's. I'm sure. Now, do you have a rooting interest now since?
I really don't.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, whether it would have been Truman or the Senators blood and Muni line, I got people that I know on both teams.
Mm-hmm.
And there are guys in there that actually, for the Lions, have some minor league experience over here.
Right.
Not only the American guys, but Chen Young-chi, who for years was a member of the Pirates minor league system before he decided to go back to Taiwan. Because basically there was no room for him over there. You've got a former Yankee minor leaguer in Quo that basically never got above really single A ball and never got a shot to show his skills, but yet in Taiwan he's one of the better players, even though, if you remember earlier in the year, he had a little DUI incident and they sent him down to the minors for a little bit.
Oh, gosh.
But he's a very, very good player. And then you've got your American players over there. You've got former Long Island Duck Tim Melville. Got former Red Sox minor leaguer Teddy Stankiewicz, and former Astro minor leaguer, and I can't even pronounce his name because it's like one of those, I think it's Dykhorn.
Okay.
Is the other pitcher. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name, but during the post-game celebration, they actually had the three guys together, and Dykhorn and Stankiewicz basically shamed Melville into doing a little postseason dance for the three of them. It was fun yet embarrassing all at the same time.
Oh, gosh. And it's probably locker room material, I guess, for next season, I guess. But I guess it's funny that you can get away with doing that. I mean, try something like that in Major League Baseball. You might get, like, somebody whizzing a fastball at their head next year or whatever. I don't know. It's,
This was like the postseason MVP thing, where everybody gets interviews, so.
Oh, okay. It's within the teammates. Okay, I apologize. So it's...
No.
Yeah.
This was after the game. They do their MVP, and, always during a season, half-season clincher, they'll have the celebration on the field where everybody gets interviewed. So they decided to have the three Americans together, just to have a little fun. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Another guy that I'm really, happy for is their pitching coach, Jaime Amaro, who a major league veteran, spent a couple of years coaching in indie ball, and then all of a sudden he's coming over to Taiwan. He did an awesome job in the second half. Whether it's with those American guys that I mentioned, or, just staying the course with some of their star players, star pitchers, and whatever. Credit to him for keeping them focused in the second half there.
Okay. Well, definitely congratulations to them, and look forward to the Taiwan series starting this weekend. And it's going to be a lot of good postseason baseball. Next week's episode will definitely be a fun one to talk about, because by then we'll have a World Series champion. You'll have the Taiwan series going underway. You'll have the KBO postseason starting up and probably finishing within the next couple weeks, I guess. But, so we'll definitely have some postseason baseball to talk about, and then we can start getting into the winter leagues and the hot stove of the summer leagues that we've been covering on this show. So, Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of fun. And I hope to have my new palatial estate set up so I can watch some more games too. And, I might have to call in a day or two sick from work now. I'm not going to do that, but I'll definitely watch, what I can live and what I can on Twitch and delay and all that good stuff. And I know you will be, Eric, and I'm sure a lot of you folks listening will and viewing this show will as well, and we'll have plenty to talk about. And one thing I do want to mention, folks, Eric and I were talking about this off the air. Because of some personal stuff going on, I couldn't do it this weekend. I was thinking of doing it maybe with one of the World Series games, but probably won't be able to do that. But I was thinking of doing maybe a watch along with some of these Winter League games, as far as maybe the time zones with the KBO and CPBL might not work for some of us because, a lot of the games are during the week and the times that they are on in the United States or that kind of thing. But I think some of the games in Mexico and Cuba might work for us. We'll take a look at that, and we'll update you on that, not only on this show, but also on our Facebook groups and on Twitter as well. Eric and I want to branch out, and we want as many of you to enjoy the show as possible, and I think that'll be a good way for us to do that. We can, if you're a fan of certain teams and players, you can trash talk, do whatever. We'll try to have some fun with it, So that's something we can look forward to, I think, in the coming months. Nice thing about this with these winter leagues, we can talk about baseball all year round, talk about live baseball and, division races and playoffs and even some of the bad stuff, like the COVID regulations, seeing how the other countries are doing with the crowds and all that, and it's all part of it, and, overall, it should be a lot of fun, so, I don't know.
The thing that I like about these winter leagues is the time zones are very favorable to someone like me. The Cuba games, for the most part, have been early afternoon. Around 2, maybe 3 o'clock East Coast time. Of course, with daylight savings time ending this weekend, everything gets pushed back an hour on the U.S. side, where no other state changed.
Right.
No other countries changed, so that just gives us an hour extra time. So the games in Cuba might start at 1 in the afternoon, and Mexico would actually start more like around the 8:30 Eastern zone there because of the time difference.
Okay. You're talking about 8:30 p.m. in the evening, or 8? Yeah.
Yeah, 8:30 p.m.
Okay.
Dominican League, once that starts up, you're talking most of the games start at 6:30 East Coast time.
Gotcha.
Venezuela, if it starts, are normally around the same time. Because believe it or not, their time difference, and I don't know how the global situation works, but they're only half an hour behind. It's weird. It's not even a full hour.
Interesting. Okay.
So the only league that's really wacko in these winter leagues as far as the time zone, and basically because of where they are in the world, is Australia. For the majority of the time, since they only do play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, most of their games are live from Australia, and our time zone is what would be 3 in the morning. Fortunately, their games are broadcast over YouTube, so it's more or less an on-demand thing. So if you're like me and you're not a night owl, because I'm not as young as I used to be,
right,
I can still watch it when I get up, at a semi-normal time.
Okay. Well, a lot of folks do that now with the KBO and probably with CPBL and the NPB anyway. So, I mean, I could see myself doing it, like, if it was like a early, like 3 o'clock, like on a Sunday morning or whatever. Just maybe go out for a little bit, or, I mean, take a nap, like, during the day, or, afternoon, early evening, and then, just then maybe watch along with the baseball and all that. So, I mean, I could see myself doing that too, but, we'll talk about it, which leagues we want to do that. Actually, for that league, one thing I would be curious about is if there's some way we can get a hold of Manny Fernandez's debut for Sydney in that league. So I want to see that myself, see how well he does or how poorly he does, and how the Australian fans receive him. Maybe, as we've been joking about on previous episodes, see if, like, the people in Sydney start buying, wigs like Manny's hair and that kind of thing. But, just it should be.
If the Ramirez Roadshow is anything like it was in Taiwan, Australians are going to love him.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I got to tell you, and if he can still perform at somewhat of a level like he's used to, steroids or not, it's going to be fun out there.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he did. I could see him being this generation's Ricky Henderson, where it seems like, I mean, a lot of people in the NFL comment about Tom Brady playing at 42. I mean, when did Ricky Henderson finally hang up his cleats? Because, I mean, it was like after he retired from major leagues, he was still playing in independent leagues for a long time, I think, too. So, I mean, he was like, I don't know. How old would you say, Eric? I'd say maybe like in his 50s, and he might have stopped. Maybe even longer than that. I don't know.
No, I think his last year at Newark, I think he quit at 47.
47. Okay, well, that's still, I don't know, it's still a long time in professional athlete years. So they're almost like dog years, I guess. But yeah, that's still pretty impressive, and I could see Manny doing that as well in Australia. So definitely look forward to that. All right, folks, we're going to take another quick break, and when we get back, we will talk a little bit about, take our tour to Japan, talk about the NPB, and then talk about some of these winter leagues that we had just mentioned just now, as well as whatever else is on our mind, including one thing we were talking about actually off the air I think you folks might be interested in too, and definitely love to read your comments about this too when we get to that subject. You're listening to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. We'll be right back. Alright, folks, welcome back to Pro Baseball World Tour here on RGC Multimedia. Rick Crabb, Eric Marin back, and as promised, we have taken our tour over to Japan for the NPB. Eric, once again, our Japanese friends are polite and respectful and concentrating on the baseball, and no controversies or anything to report from that league. Have you heard of anything notable from that league other than just the schedule and what's been going on as far as between on the diamond itself?
The only thing that I really noticed was the Yokohama Bay Stars basically let go of their manager by the end of the season. So Mr. Lopez will not be coming back.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of, I had always regarded him as one of the top managers in the Japanese league. He hit a milestone back about, I think it was a month or so, so he won his 500th game or something as Japanese manager. Mm-hmm. And him not coming back in Edmonton.
It is.
The team underperformed, so I guess, somebody's got to be the fall guy.
Right, yeah, and unfortunately that happens with a lot in sports where you'll have a manager who'll have a winning record, but then the management's kind of like, okay, yeah, we had a good regular season, several good regular seasons, but we want some championships, and excuse me, and yeah, it's
time to go. And it's funny because I always joke about the Japanese postseason. And for those of you that are easily offended or faint of heart of the risque, please close your ears. But in their playoff system, the penultimate series before the Nippon series is, get this, folks, the climax series. And just to hear the Japanese announcers, do a pregame show, and they'll, just keep on repeating, "Oh, climax the city, climax the city." You always get a chuckle out of it.
Right, yeah. I mean, you kind of think that, I don't know, an adult video company is sponsoring the game or something somehow. It just sounds, it sounds strange. But I guess over there, it's just a cultural difference that, I don't know, maybe gets lost in translation a little bit here, but,
I mean, you always figure, the climax would be the end. But no, that's just like either the beginning or the middle of it.
Right.
And there's the next series, so it's just kind of quirky, but it brings all the fun to there.
But I agree, yeah. I mean, that title, you would think that would be the Japan series and not, not their equivalent of the divisional or, I guess, like the Pacific or Central Division championships, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. All right, folks, I'll have the Japanese standings for you shortly. We are having some technical difficulties at the moment. I apologize for that. Well, while we do that, Eric, why don't we just talk about what we were talking about off the air? There is one thing you and I have spoken about is the merch of the different teams that we've been ordering from, whether it be from MLB or KBO, or I'm sure you have a lot from CPBL, and you have a vast collection of bobbleheads. You and I were talking about what are maybe some of our favorite uniforms and least favorite uniforms of teams were. So why don't we go through that a little bit while we're waiting to hear from our friends in Japan and see their standings. And originally I was going to cut it down because of time, but let's do that. Let's do it by league. We'll just do the big ones. So for example, for major leagues, okay, what would you say your top 5 for them would be? Like your 5 favorites?
Well, okay, 5 favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go with anything blue.
Okay.
And it's not just because I'm partial to the color,
right?
But I did like some of the old baby blues of the Cardinals and Phillies, and even some of the alternate jerseys like the Blue Jays and stuff like that. It's just a nice little twist. Whereas on the flip side of the coin, you had the ugly jerseys, like the brown Fire jerseys of the Padres, which I just couldn't stand, or the Burger King jerseys that the Astros at one time had.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or let's see, what were some of the other really ugly ones? Aesthetically ugly, but kind of cool at the same time, were the White Sox jerseys of the 70s, when you had the really weird logo of the S with the O and the X on the inside of the White Sox jerseys.
Okay.
And your pants pants were not even pants; they were shorts.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I remember the shorts. And then didn't those jerseys also have kind of like almost like a collar, like you would have like on a dress shirt kind of thing too, which was kind of weird for sports jerseys, but maybe that was another year they did that. But I remember the shorts. I remember they had just the word socks written across the chest as well. Yeah, they were pretty nasty. Let's see.
Of course, you had wonderful promos those years too. White Sox owner Jerry Reinsdorf was quite original in some of their promos, like Disco Demolition Night and stuff like that.
Right.
And then minor league wise, you had some cool jerseys that corresponded with some cool names. Like the Padres at one point actually had a team in Hawaii called the Islanders.
Oh wow, that's a good name for them.
Back in the 80s, and those jerseys were pretty cool. I mean, it's all about marketing, but at the same time, they could be innovative as well.
Right. One of my favorite minor league team names of all time was, I think the Braves had an affiliate in Macon, Georgia. They were called the Macon Whoopee. But I thought that was a kind of a clever name for them. But let's see, my favorite.
Wasn't the logo a fig leaf, I believe?
What was it? I'm sorry again.
I think the logo of the Macon Whoopee was a fig leaf.
Yeah. If not, it probably should have been. For sure. But let's see, my favorite as far as the major league teams. I also like the Bubble Pea. The Bubble Pea of the Phillies, the powder blue for them, for Kansas City. Toronto had some really sharp ones, as you mentioned, as well for that. As far as other teams, I was and I'm still a big fan of the Atlanta Braves. I like that tomahawk across the script that they kind of went back to, like in the late 80s after they had that experiment in the 70s with like the blue and the white, and I don't know, it's kind of a weird combination for them, but I like that uniform when, that it was kind of like what they had when they were the Milwaukee Braves and probably even the Boston Braves before that, but I was always a fan of that uni. The Blue Jays themselves, I just like that logo. The logo that they currently have with the bird and the maple leaf. I didn't like when they were like in the 90s where they tried to cut out the word blue out of Blue Jays. So they just called themselves the Jays, and they had a weird scheme where they were like black and gray and kind of weird stuff. But I liked that logo and that team. I'm trying to think who else before I name my obvious favorite. And a lot of the Dodgers, I think I've always liked their unis. I just thought that was just a clean look with the blue, and I like that combination where it was the white jersey, the blue script, and then the red numbers. I thought that kind of looked cool for them. It's kind of a classic look. Tied with them, this might surprise you, but I mean, you want to talk about classic looks? Come on. You can't beat the Yankees in the pinstripes. That's just iconic. Anyone who, even if you mention baseball, they don't follow baseball. I mean, their Yankees are literally a worldwide brand. I'm sure when you travel to Taiwan and to other places, people would just buy Yankees hats just as they like it as a good fashion accessory or anything like that, And, of course, my personal favorite, I tried to keep my team allegiance out of it, but I can't help it. I like the current Orioles and what they wore like in the 60s with the cartoon bird. I like it but as far as the caps, I only like the black with the orange brim. I do not like the white panel that they have in the late 70s, early 80s, the Cal Ripken War and all that. I wish they would, get rid of that. And I do not like the one where it's black with the orange brim with the O''S. Orioles are the state bird of Maryland, okay? They are an actual bird. They're not a breakfast cereal. They're not like the A's where you just want to shorten their name or anything like that. But Okay, probably my least favorite, I would definitely go with the Chicago White Sox with those. The Astros, I would definitely agree with too, although I'll be honest, when I was a kid, there was a Little League team that had those jerseys, and I was kind of envious of them for that, because the rest of ours were just kind of like standard, looked like Bad News Bears kind of uniforms with different teams' patches on it, but they were basically the same uniform. But, and there's one, I'll add this to the like. I'm debating whether to like it or dislike it. I kind of like in the 70s when the Oakland A's had the yellow jerseys. Something with that, I mean, it's kind of sounds crazy, but for some reason for that team, it just made it work. And a lot of like our nightmare or like our least favorite uniforms, I think it's just the 70s just trying to they're trying to like modernize the teams, but then they wound up actually dating the logos of them, and people just were like, nah, we want the throwbacks like from the 50s and the 60s and before that for our team. So, I don't know, you have a lot of that going on. And
I mean, you're seeing that in your memorabilia the last few years as well. If you notice, Top in coming out with their newer set, their actual motifs are retro versions of the cards that they did like in the 50s and 60s. It's like a recreation of the old card layouts, but with updated players, and it's just like a cool thing to experience.
It is, and I liked them because not only they had like the statistics on the back, but then they had like somebody doing like a cartoon of I don't know, of that player or that team's mascot or whatever. I thought that was an interesting touch where I guess people got tired of like Fleer and Upper Deck and all these companies having like the glossy pictures, which, I mean, they're cool in their own right, but I guess it's a case of whatever's old is new again, so I guess you have a lot of that going on. But okay, as far as other teams, let's see. What about the KBO? I know you and I have been buying a lot of merch, and once again, I appreciate you giving me the program for the Kia Tigers from your trip to their spring training camp. I'll definitely let you name your favorite unis, and I think I know what yours is already because you've mentioned it a couple times. But yeah, what's your favorite merch or caps or whatever of the KBO?
I'm liking some of these theme jerseys lately. Not only the caps, but not only the jerseys around it, but the caps that go along with it. The Dinos have done well in their alternate jerseys, as well as KT. Last week, I think I told you, I ordered the name escapes me, but it was a certain type of style that KT did for a certain theme where the jerseys were a royalish blue and the cap, instead of the white lettering, was more of a yellow lettering. That was really very cool. And I managed to find a way to order it.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I saw you got. Did you receive the cap yet, or it was just a picture from another one?
No, it was actually the photo from KT's website, which one of my buddies from the my KBO Facebook group actually ordered for me, and I sent them the money over, so the package is on its way. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
But I got the spring training cap, the red one, and I got the blue one.
Interesting.
Kind of mix it up a little here in the memorabilia collection on my KBO. So I'm broadening my horizons a little bit.
There you go. All right. Yeah, I mean, I like, for the most part, I like the uniforms and the logos of the teams. One announcer on ESPN, I laughed because I kind of agreed with him on. He said the Dinos, he said they were like the Oregon Ducks of the KBO in the sense that the University of Oregon football team, they have, like, God, it seems like they have, like, a ridiculous amount of alternative jerseys and helmets and that sort of thing. And the Dinos, it seemed like they had a lot of interesting alternates, especially the one where it was kind of like a teal, almost. I think they called them, like, the mint jersey or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? It was like a teal jersey with the blue lettering for the Dinos.
They called it mint green over there, and I could see their point.
Mm-hmm.
But when I originally saw them, either online or actually on the field, I thought it was teal. But upon further review, as we say in the replay market, it was more of like the mint pukish green.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the first thing I thought of when I agree. I thought it was teal. I was thinking it looked like a San Jose Sharks jersey, but yeah, you're right. It's more, I wouldn't say, yeah, it would be almost, kind of remind me of like mint toothpaste, like you squeeze a tube of toothpaste or like of AIM or something like that. You get that kind of color. That was kind of cool. But, yeah, I agree with you about the Wiz as well. Probably they have my second favorite jersey only because they had my second favorite cap. My favorite in that league, and I think a lot of it is just because of the color and my major league loyalty, I like the Hanwha uniforms. I like that logo with the E and E kind of morphing into the eagle. I like the black and orange combination with them. And although they have one alternate jersey I'm not a fan of, it's kind of like almost like a pewter gray. It's kind of a weird, it's not like a regular road gray. It's kind of a weird shade of it. And I don't know, something about it looks kind of off. But, I mean, those two and the Dinos are probably my favorite in that league. The two that are my least favorite for that league, and unfortunately it has nothing to do with my allegiances because they are my favorite team in that league, but the LG Twins. Guys, make up your mind. You want pinstripes or do you want a solid jersey? Don't, go half and half. It just does not look right. And, I mean, a lot of fans tease them about their shiny red and black jackets, and I don't know, something's off about their uniforms. Their caps are okay, but I don't know. It's like I bought one jersey of theirs. I bought, the solid black. I thought that's okay, but if you're going to go pinstripes, go all out. Don't do, a pinstripe and then have, a solid red shoulder. It just looks kind of weird. And my least favorite in that league is Kiwoom. I don't know, it just seems like it's so bland. I don't like that maroon. Maybe it's because of my aversion to living near Washington and their football team, but something about that color scheme I just don't like, and it's just, which is a shame because I think they probably have one of the coolest names in the league, Kiwoom Heroes. I'd like to see them, I don't know, do kind of almost like a comic book font or something like that, but although I think years ago the KBO actually had a superhero themed team called the Sammy Superstars, and they actually had a baseball player who looked like Superman with a bat, but from what I read about them, they didn't do very well, so I guess that's probably why you don't see them in the KBO anymore. But
or the ownership just decided to split.
Yeah, that's true too. Which again, that surprises me about the Kiwoom Heroes. I think I mentioned last week and in previous episodes that they don't have a major corporation that owns the team. They have sponsors, but they don't have a corporation sponsor that, like you do with Kia and LG and KT and all that sort of thing. Alright. Now, we'll continue that in a little bit, but we finally got the Japanese standings for the NPB. We'll go to the Central Division. We have the Yomiuri Giants at 63, 38, and 6. Have the Chunichi Dragons at 56, 48, and 5. The Hanshin Tigers at 52, 50, and 6. The Yokohama Bay Stars, you mentioned earlier, Eric, at 51, 53, and 5. The Hiroshima Carp at 44, 54, and 10. And the Yakult Swallows at 38, 61, and 8. Going on to the Pacific Division, we have the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks at 65, 40, and 5. The Pelote Marines at 56-50-2. The Saibu Lions at 52-52-2. A lot of twos. The Rakuten Golden Eagles at 51-52-6. The Nippon Ham Fighters at 47-57-5. And the Oryx Buffaloes at 41-61-6. Poor Adam Jones. Those are our standings for the NPB. Now, Eric, let me ask you this. Do you have any merch of the NPB? Because I've seen like a few logos and caps of theirs that I actually like.
I actually did buy a Nippon Ham Fighters jersey when I was in Taiwan last year, only because one of Taiwan's greatest hitters had gone over to Japan, basically because he had hoped to possibly try to get into MLB, but I guess his advisors had said in order to get maximum exposure before attempting to leap over to America, to go to NPB first.
Okay.
So, Wang Guolong is actually in Japan this year. He's actually struggling over there, which is a major disappointment for Nippon Ham and himself, and I'm wondering if that's going to take a toll on the dream that he has of making MLB.
Right.
I did buy a Ham Fighters jersey with Wong 99 on the back in Taiwan, which I was hoping to get it signed, but it was just a little too crazy there in Taiwan this past year.
Right, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I would probably buy a player of a jersey I'm familiar with, jersey of a player I'm familiar with. Like, I'd maybe buy like an Oryx Buffalo with Adam Jones, although not really a fan of their color scheme per se, the black and gold. Well, that's football and hockey loyalties going into that, but I'd probably still buy one because of him. Jim Traber, I think, and I think Larry Sheets, I think, both played for the Ham Fighters as well, so maybe get a jersey of theirs. One, I was joking with my friend who went to Japan, I would want to go to one of their games just so I can buy one of their jerseys, the Yakult Swallows, because, I mean, I'm not going to get too risque, but I think that would be funny to walk around with one of their jerseys, but...
well, it would be even better if the Swallows were in the Quinac series.
Yeah, big time.
But
that would be hilarious. I mean, Well, I'm looking at the other team names, trying to see what would be a good matchup for that, but we're not going to go there. No, but and then I'm sorry.
That's for another show.
Yeah, definitely. I've actually seen in some supermarkets here some Hanshin Tigers merch. I wouldn't mind getting a shirt of theirs. I think their logo actually looks pretty cool. The Hiroshima Carp, I would probably buy a jersey instead of buying a cap, because if you buy a cap, you might as well buy a Cincinnati Reds cap, because it's almost identical, if not completely identical. And one team, I mean, I've seen a lot of their merch, and I yelled at my buddy who went over there because he had a chance to buy an Under Armour jersey of theirs, and he didn't want to buy it because he wasn't sure if it was authentic. And then I showed him a Baltimore Sun ad that showed him that it was indeed, that Under Armour had an agreement with the Yomiuri Giants. I mean, I love their color scheme, obviously, the black and orange. A lot of teams might say, okay, that's almost like bandwagon, that's like, buying a Yankees or a Lakers or a Dallas Cowboys or, some nationwide, worldwide brand or whatever, but I don't care. I like the look of their unis. I'd definitely rock those. I plan on doing that if and when I do travel to these countries, Eric, whether with you or just in general. I plan on coming back with like jerseys and hats of different teams. I'll probably I'll go through a lot of yen or yuan or whatever the currency is in that country buying stuff. So,
right. It's just a shame that a lot of these countries won't do international shipping to the U.S. KBO kind of jumped on the bandwagon, when they got the ESPN contract and started shipping international. But for the most part, like Mexico or the Dominican Republic or stuff like that, you would actually have to go to the countries to get stuff.
And like you said, I mean, even that might be difficult because, I mean, it was like Cancun had a team and they didn't even know it from what you were telling me. So, I mean, yeah, that's...
Well, that's during the summer. I mean, and we were there actually more in the spring months. But again, Cancun, although it's Miami South and tourist trap, they're more concerned with soccer anyway.
True that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, soccer's definitely king. I mean, it's like, I think their soccer leagues actually do better as far as marketing and merchandise. I see a lot of stores. I was in the store the other day that had some of the Mexican league teams. I used to have the Guadalajara Chivas. And the reason I bought that is because I liked the color scheme. It kind of looked like, even though it was a Mexican team, it looked like an American flag almost. And plus, MLS actually had a team called the Chivas in Los Angeles for a little bit, so it was kind of cool. And also, I liked their sponsor logo across, which was the bread company Bimbo. But and it looks like another word translated in English. I guess I kind of bought that for the same reason I would buy a Swallows jersey in Japan, I guess. But still,
That was my logic too. I would buy the Bimbo jerseys on the beaches in Mexico, just for the fact that the word Bimbo was on it. And actually, if you go into the Mexican food markets, Bimbo is their bread over there. So, and their stuff is good. Between the bread and the pastries and all that. It's a good company. It's more or less the Mexican version of Wonder Bread. If you look at the logos, it's very, very similar.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because I think they actually bought Wonder Bread and Hostess and a bunch of other brands because for a while some of those countries had a strike or went bankrupt or something. And I think Bimbo bought a lot of those brands out. So I think they actually do distribute to, not only they sell the Bimbo products in the in the ethnic aisles of stores or in the Latino markets or whatever, they sell the mainstream American brands as well. So, and there's actually near where I recently moved, there is a nice Latino market. They have a lot of good snacks as far some of them related to sports teams in Mexico and Spain. I think I actually bought kind of like a Doritos knockoff. They were for FC Barcelona, and it's like they had like their own line of snacks. They had like you get like tortilla chips or pretzels, but in like little bags, and they have them with different players and stuff. That was kind of interesting. So, but
nice routine.
Yeah,
that's why I like I love buying the Mexican jerseys, and or if they're given to me by certain players or whatever.
Right.
Probably have. Let's see, I have at least 3 or 4 different Mexico jerseys. Baseball I bought over the years and or have been mailed to me as surprise gifts.
Oh, nice.
They were really, when I've been going to the 12U games over here on Long Island, I wear a different jersey all the time, and our coaching staff is like, where are you getting all these jerseys from, bro?
Yeah.
Never-ending supply of different stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, tell him to listen to the show. He can find out. You have... I'll give you credit, man. You have a lot of connections with players throughout the world. So, I don't know. Maybe we can talk to some of these players, like when their seasons end or whatever. I don't know. Maybe especially some of the CPBL guys. I would love to have like one of your friends talk about the experience, like during our CPBL segment or whatever. And you can ask them back and forth with your experiences. So yeah, yeah. It should be some interesting shows down ahead. All right, folks. All right, Eric. Well, do you have anything additional to add about the NPB or any of the winter leagues coming up, or any merch or anything at all?
Well, I do watch Mexico and Cuba, although I am more of a fan of the Mexican leagues, being that there are a bunch of foreign players that do go over there to play winter ball anyway. The Cuban leagues have no fans whatsoever. Mexico, some of the stadiums are supplying fans, but the mascots and the cheerleaders are still part of it, just like in the Asian League. So that's why I swing on them more than the Cuba leagues, but it's just 365 days a year of baseball, and that's my bottom line, is just enjoying the games as they go along.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely plan on doing that. And for you folks listening, if you're listening from Mexico, or we've gone to games there, or any of these other countries, please feel free to comment on that. Just share your experiences, share some pictures or whatever. Like, I know there are a lot of great groups for that. My KBO is excellent for that. Baseball Pacific, because they're great for that as well. I mean, and a lot of fans are hardcore fans like us. Well, more so Eric than me. I consider myself a hardcore fan, but I think, there are people who are much more knowledgeable and follow a lot more than I do, and doing this show, I'm enjoying learning about different teams and different leagues and in the different countries and such. So it's a lot of fun, and I thank you, Eric, for signing on with me on this, and thank everybody who is listening on this show, and hope you will continue to do so. And like I said, the winter leagues, I'm really looking forward to doing that, and definitely talking about these postseasons with these leagues, with the NPB, and the CPBL, and the KBO, and the World Series and MLB, and hopefully, and after those leagues end, hopefully there'll be developments as far as minor leagues and spring training and whatnot. Oh, that reminds me, Eric, I wanted to ask you about it, since I saw you had commented on the My KBO group about this. You had asked about any spring training for KBO teams in the United States, and you had mentioned that a few teams had already done so in Florida, and I think you had mentioned, the LG Twins may have done it in Arizona, or are about to. Have you heard anything more about that since you brought that up?
No, I haven't really, and I guess it's because it's too early to tell, given the current situation that we have in the States here.
Right.
So I was wondering if there was any sort of inkling regarding that as far as early indications. A couple of the people in the My KBO group seem to think that they're not going to come over, which would kind of be a shame.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'm kind of hoping that this whole thing gets rectified somewhere towards the end of the year, so that the Korean teams can barnstorm over here like they have in the past.
Right, and it's probably because, it's policies of our country's government and other countries' government, as far as there's probably other countries in the world, they don't want to come here. They don't want to, as they're worried about their players coming back or getting infected or whatever, and I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I have heard talk about they may have a vaccine on the way, but for all we know, next summer we could be talking about the Buffalo Blue Jays again. Who knows? I hope not, but, we'll see what happens.
I don't know if you remember, but, back when the pandemic first started, China was more or less stuck in Florida. They couldn't get out.
Right.
SK had managed to get out of here with little or no problem, but Kia, I believe, had some sort of government problem, whether it was on our side or Korea's side, as far as getting out of here.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just hoping that the bad taste in the mouth doesn't, like, linger on so that they don't come back to fall. So I kind of like having the second team there.
Yeah.
As far as the Arizona teams that the KBO takes in, I'm hoping they're still able to get over there. But who knows?
Yeah.
And nothing will probably be announced until towards the end of the year or early January. But I'm just hoping that plans can forge forward and they're able to come here again, because it was really kind of fun watching them.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would enjoy that too, especially some of the players like Aaron Brooks and Matt Williams. I remember seeing him with the Nationals. I'd love to meet him, talk to him, and ask him about experiences over there and stuff. But yeah, that would be a good time. I mean, if the LG Twins come over, I'd be like super fanboy with Hyun-Soo Kim and and Ramos and all those guys too. So that would be a lot of fun. But hopefully we can do that. All right, folks. Well, we appreciate you listening to our show, and we'll give you further developments as soon as we hear about KBO or other international leagues coming here to play, and definitely about the watch party. It looks, I could see, Eric, it looks like we might either be talking about doing one for Mexico or maybe like a late Saturday night thing for Australia, maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see what our viewing options are with those, and we'll take it from there. So, all right.
The better part about Australia is on the weekends they'll have double headers. So one of their games is usually at a feasible enough time in America, because of the time change, where the games are like 8 or 9 o'clock our time.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it works out, rather perfect.
Okay.
And again, Australia's got, if you thought our time zones were weird, Australia, as big of a country as they are, their time zones are wacko.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, well, we'll find out about those, I'm sure, when we do try to tune in, and if we do a watch party for that. Should be a lot of fun. All right, folks. Thank you for listening, and as always, we end our show with the first place NC Dinos cheerleaders taking us out to Baby Shark. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next week.
공룡 뚜루뚜루